Good, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Iris Hong. I come from Taiwan, and I am the student of National Cheng Kung University. And thanks CME and CPD conferences give me opportunity to present my studies. Okay, the topic of my study is what narratives can do for medical education, the overlay structure and self-examination in medical teachers' narratives. And in these studies, the narratives I collected was the medical teacher's first-hand experiences in the medical encounters. Okay, in recent years, more and more medical educators recognize the significance of medical narratives competence. According to Sharon in 2004, narrative competence contains textual skills, creative skills, and affective skills. Among these three skills, the textual skills contain structure of stories, narrator's perspective, and recognitions of the story implication. With the textual skill, the physicians are able to accurately recognize what the patient really concerned and what the disease itself uncovered. Here are 6 key elements, and I will adopt this element to analyze the medical teacher's narratives. In this table, I show the definitions for each element. First is an abstract. It is a summary of a narrative by asking what was this about. For example, the teacher said, yesterday I met a patient who was very hard to get along with. So this sentence is referred to the abstract for the teacher stories. As to the orientation, it provides the basic information of narratives by asking who, for example, who is the actor, who is the protagonist of the story. And the third one is complicating action. It is situated in the middle part of narratives. It was composed of a series of events and was regularly finished by results. For example, the teacher said he printed all prescription sheets that he had before. So the words printed and had are the complicating action. They are used to create a narrative. As to the evaluation, it has functioned to distinguish the complicating action from the results. There are 2 types of evaluation. The first is the external evaluation, and the second is embedding evaluation. For example, the teacher said, "Wow, it's unbelievable, he printed thousands of prescription sheets." So these expressions refer to the evaluation. It gives a comment to the teacher's story. As to the results, it was defined by the question what finally happened. And the coda, it is situated in the end part of narratives. It has a function of precluding a potential questions and returning the time of speaking. For example, the teacher said, "Well, I think it's a probability that don't do that." So this expression is referred to the coda. Okay, let's look at the motivation of my studies. Few studies work on medical teachers' narratives. Even if they didn't provide adequate evidence. Specifically, studies work on medical teachers' narratives in a class were few. As we all know, everything promotion is based on education. Accordingly, this study aimed to examine how the textual skill is performed in a medical teacher's narratives. And I will further explore how the structure of the medical teacher narrative applied to medical education. Since in Labov in 1972 mentioned that the middle part of narratives was complex but very important. Accordingly, these studies will focus on the middle part of narratives. As I mentioned before, I will adopt 6 key elements to analyze the medical teacher's narrative. Here are 2 research questions in my study. As I mentioned before, since the middle part of narrative is important, so I will examine what is the structures of the middle part of medical teacher's narratives, and how does these structures correlate with the result of narrative. Since the middle part of narrative is important, so I will further examine how was the end part of the medical teacher's narrative presented, and what's the difference between the definition of coda and the finding of this study. Okay, let's look at the methodology of my study. 4 narratives were collected from 4 hours of telerecording of 2 classes. The course title is Outpatient Communication and Interview Skills at a medical school in southern Taiwan. The instructor of this course is also the physicians of family medicine at Southern Taiwan Teaching Hospitals. 4 narratives will be transcribed in Mandarin Chinese to conduct the data analysis. Okay. In this slide, I will talk about the basic framework of medical teacher's narratives. As you can see, the table 1 is the sequence of narrative elements in the medical teacher's narrative. In this table, the number refers to the sequence of elements in a narrative. For example, in narrative 1, the first element occurred was orientation, and the second was abstract, and third was uncomplicating action, and fourth was evaluation, and fifth was result, and the final element occurred was coda. In this study, I will focus on the middle part of narratives, and it contains the evaluation and complicating actions. Okay, let's look at the result of the first research question. The first research question is what the structure of middle part of medical teacher's narratives is, and how does this structure correlate with the result of narrative. The excerpt was collected from the middle part of narratives. Okay, let's look at the data. In line E, the italic and printed underlined word printed is a complicating action because it tells a narrative, and in line I name it as a teacher's evaluation since it provided a command for line E, and this condition also occurred in lines J and M. So the lines E and I put together to form an unit, and the combination of J and M is another new unit. It has a function of extending a narrative and approaching the main idea of a narrative. Accordingly, the line E as a pair and the lines J and N as a pair, it shows the overlaying structures. Based on the finding, I find that each unit is composed of complicating actions and evaluation. A new unit was created to develop a narrative so as to achieve the main idea of a narrative. Okay, let's look at the result of the second question. The second question is how the end part of medical teachers' narratives was presented, and what's the difference between the above definition of coda and the finding of this study. This excerpt was collected from the end part of the narratives. I call the end part of teacher's narratives is a teacher's examination, since there are some expressions regarding as teacher's reflections on particular events, and it provides a way of thinking. As you can see in line L, the teacher said, "We doctors might inhibit our concerns and empathy for patients." So the expressions "we," our concern, and empathy for patients reflect one's experiences and one's belief, and this idea also occurred in line M. The teacher said the revelations of empathy, which means that he summarized his behavior at that moment. Accordingly, The medical teacher self-examination correlate with the course topic, for example, empathy. If making a comparison between the above definition of CODA in the narratives and the finding of this study, the CODAs was composed of several clauses. They were found at the end part of narratives. For example, the speaker can say nothing at the end part of the narratives. However, in medical teachers' narratives, the end part of the narratives is teachers' examinations. This is served to show that the medical teacher shared the stories with his students regarding a patient he met was very hard to get along with, but the teacher didn't think that the time questions rather he showed his empathy for that patient eventually. According to this finding, the end part of medical teachers' narratives was formed in a formal and enlightening way. It can facilitate the medical students to understand the main idea of a narrative, for example, empathy. So, the knowledge of narrative structures not only facilitates students to comprehend the under meaning of the narratives accurate, but also being a practice of self-reflection. The recognitions of narrative structures might support the achievement of the training of narrative competence in medical practice, and thereby the quality of medicine will be identically ensured. Okay, that's all for my presentations.